At the lake in the forest, everyone was getting situated. Jesse and James were leaning on a boulder that Meowth and Wobbuffet were sitting on. Sarah was sitting on her tree branch that way the perfect height, too high and not too low, with her Staraptor perched beside her. Domino sat on the ground leaning against a tree while she let her Pikachu out. Paul once again sat on his tree stump with Torterra next to him. Torterra looked up seeing the two Pikachu, Aipom and Eevee sitting on him and smiled. Joey found a fallen tree to sit on and led Emboar out. He sat next to Torterra talking to him. Ash sat leaning against a tree across from Domino, watching Pikachu and the others play. He decided Garchomp deserved some free time and let him out. Cynthia sat down and leaned against Ash while she watched her and Ash's Garchomp talk. Everything was quiet until Ash asked Paul a question. "How'd your battle go?" Paul smiled and said, "See for yourself," he said while clicking on his Nano Dex and a hologram of a battlefield appeared. This amazed Joey, who decided to ask after the video was over. "This battle is between Cody from Hoenn and Paul from Sinnoh. Begin." "Flygon, let's go," he called as a giant Flygon came. "Hydreigon, stand by for battle," Paul said, calling a pseudo-legendary. "Dragon Claw," Paul commanded. "You too," he countered. But Hydreigon's attack overpowered Flygon's after a fight. "Sandstorm," he called as Flygon flapped its wings to send sand everywhere. "Fire Blast on the sand," Paul said as the fire attack heated the sand so much it became glass, and broke. "Flygon Dragon Claw again," he said, and then Flygon took off heading at the dragon, dark type. "Perfect. Use Dragon Pulse," Paul said as an orb of dragon energy was shot at Flygon, stopping Aerial Ace and taking out Flygon. "Okay, Umbreon, it's your turn," he said as the dark type evolution appeared. "Hydreigon, return. Good work. Absol, stand by for battle," Paul said as his Absol came out again. "Umbreon, Shadow Ball," he ordered as a purple ball went from Umbreon to Absol. "Absol, Razor Wind." Then Absol's horn became white and multiple attacks came out, negating the Shadow Ball attack and hitting Umbreon. "Dark Pulse Umbreon," he said as the all-too-familiar Dark Orb was shot again. "Water Pulse," Paul said as a Water Orb collided with the Dark one. Through the steam, Paul said, "Go into a takedown," as Absol slammed all his body weight into its fellow Dark type. "Finish it off now with Razor Wind," Paul said, and true to Paul's word, Razor Wind managed to knock out Umbreon. "Umbreon, return. Go Grumpig," he said as a Psychic Pig came out of its ball. "Grumpig, Energy Ball Barrage," he ordered as the pig sent orbs into Absol. "Don't take that Dark Pulse," Paul said as the Dark Orb slammed into the Psychic type. "Grumpig, get back up and use Psychic." But when nothing happened and Grumpig took another Dark Pulse, he realized Psychic doesn't work on Dark. "Rats. Grumpig, do a Focus Blast," he said as her pig slammed the attack into Absol, who tried to counter with another Razor Wind. But the ref ruled that both Pokemon are unable to battle. As Paul still has two remaining, Paul is the winner. With that, Paul and Cody shook hands. That's when the image was sucked back into the watch on Paul's wrist and Joey spoke up. "What is that thing?" he said, pointing to Paul's watch. "They're called Nano Dexes. They look like watches but have nearly unlimited functions. They works as a Pokédex, camera, phone, they send messages, display holograms, and my favorite is they only work for one person," answered Ash. "How do they only work for one person?" asked a curious Joey. "After you get it new, and new means never been used, you put it on. If you're the first person to put it on, it keys into your DNA and only works for the person with that DNA. Even if it's on someone else's wrist. Even on my wrist it won't answer to another voice." Paul answered him this time. Now Joey was awestruck. "Where can I get one?" he asked anxiously. "You can't. These are only prototypes. I got mine to test drive and I gave him one to repay a debt. Both are custom made and efficient as ever. The best part is they aren't available to the public yet," Ash told him. Now he was depressed and everyone else was laughing. Until a voice that still bothers Ash yelled, "Wow, now I want one even more." Everyone turned to see Max being the one that said that in his entire traitorous group. "Too bad, kid. Like I said, they're prototypes and aren't available to the public. Ash said coldly. Joey noticed his change in behavior and was going to ask until Domino shook her head and gave him a look that said, later. He nodded and sat down, turning his attention back to Ash. But Paul has won. Misty countered, wanting to beat Ash. Because he is my friends and he deserves it. Unlike you backstabbers. He said as he glared harder and Pikachu's cheeks were sparking. Backstabbers. That got Joey's attention. He hated people who turned on other people, especially his friends. Look, Ash already proved to you that he's better than all of you. Even in a handicap match you guys couldn't win. Don't tell me he has to beat if through your heads again. Paul said as the two joined Ash and Pikachu in glaring. Aw, look, Ashy's got a posse now. Gary taunted and everyone but Ash's group laughed. Ash just smiled as he said. No, I just have friends. You wouldn't know what they are because you're too cocky to get any. Ash said as his group laughed and Gary's glared. What are you talking about? These guys are my friends. He said, pointing at the people behind him. Really? They look more like your posse. Ash countered and had Gary's group brimming with anger. No, they're my friends. We are all friends. Gary said. Well, so were we. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys kicked someone else out because they're weak. Like you did me. I met 20 that Gary's the next one out. Before the ex-friends could make a comeback, someone else spoke. I say 30 on Misty. I never liked her. Paul said. Done. Ash said. Contest for pet goes next. Said the trio together. I say Max, he's the weak link. Domino joined. Come on. It's either the perv for being a perv of the flirt for flirting. Sarah said from the trees, pointing at Brock and Drew. Ash's group laughed and Gary's glared. We just wanted a nano dex. Max said sadly. Well, I just wanted to eat my mother's dessert before I was run out of town, but that didn't happen either. Ash countered. How come Paul gets one? Trip asked. Because he deserved it. He's my friend, unlike you all, and because I wanted to give him one. Ash sneered. We aren't friends. Iris asked. Not anymore, said the trio. Get this through your heads. You guys and me aren't friends. You betrayed me, left me alone and told me to quit. Just because I am a good trainer and you've been proved wrong doesn't mean that we're friends again. I have no intention of having friends that want sick by me. Team Rocket, Domino and Paul have all been twice the friends you were. They were quiet for a while before Drew spoke up. Oh yay, what's so bad about us? Ash and Paul laughed. You're sure you wanna go down that road? Paul asked. Brock, you're a pervert. Misty, you have anger issues. Being ugly is just a bonus. Ash started. May, you complain too much. Max, you don't know jack shit, so stop talking like you do, continued Paul. Drew, you dress like a gay man. What straight guy carries roses? Don, all you did was stop me from training my Pokemon to help train yours, Ash picked up. Gary, nobody likes people who have to hire personal cheerleaders. Sillin, you're the only person that ever understands what you're talking about. Paul took over again. Iris, you're just a little kid. And Trip, you always thought you were better than everyone else, but the truth was, you knew you sucked and tried to cover it up with confidence. That's good, but you weren't confident. You were annoying and bratty. Ash finished. As they finished, they spoke in sync. Now beat it. But they didn't, they called Pokemon out. Cynthia stopped them. If you're using Pokemon, at least do a real battle, she said. After 15 minutes of convincing, a member of Trip's group would go against one of Ash's to prove that Ash and his friends were better than Trip and Ash's ex-friends. Now it was May versus Jessie. Glaceon, take the stage, she said as he Ice Fox came out. Take this stage. This isn't a contest for pet. Frillish, you're up, Jessie said as her pink jellyfish came out. Glaceon, Shadow Ball. Then a dark orb appeared and was shot at Frillish. You too, Frillish. Then another dark orb was created. After not much of a struggle, Frillish's attack overpowered Glaceon's and knocked it down. Don't give it a chance, Bubble Beam. Then Glaceon was hit with bubbles before it got up. Glaceon, Ice Beam. Then Glaceon shot an ice beam at Frillish, who barely dodged. Now Frillish used Psychic. Then Glaceon was surrounded in blue energy, lifted into the air and thrown back down. Glaceon was on the ground with swirly for eyes and a panting Frillish standing over it. Next, Cynthia said. Now it was Drew versus James. Flygon. Go. Drew said as a flying dragon lizard appeared. Dragonite. James called as an orange dragon comes out. Dragon Claw. Drew said as Flygon rushed to Dragonite. You too. James said as Dragonite's attack then overpowered Flygon. Flygon, get up and do Sandstorm. Drew ordered. Not a chance. Dragonite Ice Beam. James said as the ice attack struck Flygon as it ready to Sandstorm. Once again the results were obvious. Flygon has swirly eyes and Dragonite was flying around. Still want to do this? Paul asked. Shut up and battle me. Gary said, as he released his Blastoise. Torterra, finish this quickly. Blastoise, Hydro Cannon. Blastoise was outlined in a blue aura as he sent a larger than normal torrent of water at Torterra. Oh no, I am shaking. Paul said sarcastically. Torterra, defend with Leaf Storm and use Frenzy Plant. Then the leaves Torterra created easily broke the water attack and then Torterra glowed green and familiar brown vines that were also glowing green slammed into Blastoise who got up after much difficulty. Blastoise rapid spin. Then Blastoise slunk back into its shell and took off spinning towards Torterra. After it got close enough Paul ordered. Now Giga Drain. Then the gray stones on Torterra's back glowed green, expanded and wrapped around Blastoise until it had swirls where its eyes should be. Next. Now it was Trip versus Ash. Tell you what Trip, why don't you use 3 Pokemon? Trip growled at Ash and let out his Serperior, Conkeldurr and Unpheasant. Pathetic. Charizard, show this loser real power. Ash said, calling out his mighty fire dragon. As Charizard materialized he let out a roar that would make a herd of Aggron run away. Serperior, Leaf Blade, Conkeldurr Focus Punch and Unpheasant Aerial Ace. Trip yelled as all his Pokemon lunged at Charizard, who didn't even flinch. Double Fire Punch and knock Unpheasant away with Dragon Tail. Both Charizard's hands turned red and met Serperior's tail and Conkeldurr's fist where Charizard easily overpowered them both and threw them back while swinging his glowing tail successfully deflecting Unpheasant. Serperior Leaf Storm, Conkeldurr Stone Edge and Unpheasant Air Cutter. Pathetic. Charizard Dragon's Shield. Then, Charizard formed a blue ball of energy like a dragon rage, but instead of firing, it grew and surrounded Charizard in a practically impenetrable shield. The leaves, stones and air cutter just bounces off the blue circle surrounding Charizard. That's when Ash said. Now fire a dragon rage. Then the shield shrunk down to normal size in front of Charizard's mouth and was shot at all 3 Pokemon. Then Serperior, Conkeldurr and Unpheasant collapsed. That's when the traders walked away, but before Misty left, Ash said to her. See you in the next round. Before Ash's group retreated back to the lake. With everybody in their usual spots, Joey decided to ask what Ash meant by backstabbers. Ash, back there, what did you mean when you called them backstabbers? Ash and Pikachu looked down at the ground before Ash answered. See, they were all once my friends. Then I lost in the Unova League to that kid with the Serperior. He convinced them I was weak and had them turn on me. When Pikachu and I went home on day, we saw all those people you just saw waiting for me. They told me I stunk as a trainer and should quit, then attacked when I refused. After that I gathered my Pokemon and left the civilized world. I trained, helped people and Pokemon while becoming the very best, to prove them all wrong. This got under Joey's nerves, as he wanted to teach them a lesson, until a Flareon burst out of the bush, not just an Flareon. A shadow. Quick, somebody get it. Sarah yelled from her branch. Zoroark. Dark Pulse. Joey yelled, then Zoroark came out and its Dark Pulse intercepted a flamethrower. Grass Knot and Focus Blast. Zoroark did so and only managed to hit the Flareon with the Focus Blast. Quick, don't let it get away. Night Days. Then Purple Energy attacked Flareon but was broken by another flamethrower that hit Zoroark. Go Zoroark. Night Days again. This time the purple wave hit Flareon and looked pretty weak. Before it could hit Zoroark again, Ash intervened. Pikachu. Purifying Thunderbolt. Then a burst of white light later, a normal Flareon lied on the floor. After Joey asked what happened, Paul explained the shadow Pokemon situation, the purity in his and Ash's Pokemon, and how shadows are stronger than normal. That was a really impressive battle there. A normal Pokemon almost beat a shadow. You're a lot stronger than I thought. How would you like to be able to fight shadows like me and Paul? Ash asked him, with Paul nodding, showing he would like help. You can do that? Joey asked. We could try. You'd have to have a nano dex like us, is that okay? Asked Paul. Joey's eyes lit up at the idea of owning the watch he'd wanted since the beginning of the chapter. Are you kidding? I'd get one. I am in. Joey yelled as Ash sent a message to Professor Oak that he needs Anther Nano Dex for his and Paul's new teammate. After the professor responded that he'll begin work right away, Sarah, Domino, the trio and Paul went back to their room. Ash offered to take Cynthia home. After he told Joey their room number and that this lake is usually where they hang out, Ash and Cynthia flew away on Charizard with their Garchomps flying beside each other. As they landed in the balcony, Ash recalled Charizard and looked Cynthia inside, leaving their Garchomp outside together. Alright, this is where I go home. I'll see you tomorrow, Cynthia. Ash said as he kissed her. Alright, good night, Ash. Beat Misty tomorrow quick so we can go out again. Cynthia said as she kissed him one last time before he walked onto the balcony. Okay, Garchomp, time to get back in your ball. Ash told his dragon. Hey Ash, okay, but can I see her again tomorrow? I really like her. She likes me too, I think. Garchomp said to Ash. Sure, Garchomp, if that's what you want. Ash said, receiving a gentle bite on the head in thanks before Garchomp was returned. Ash turned to Pikachu. You think Cynthia's Garchomp likes him? Ash asked his little yellow comrade. Maybe. She was staring at him a lot, and looked pretty sad when he left. He responded. Ash just shrugged and called out Charizard again. Before Ash, Pikachu and Aipom flew home on Charizard. As Charizard landed in front of the Pokemon Center, Ash recalled him as Pikachu and Aipom made their way to their room. As they walked in, Aipom jumped off and ran into Ash's room to sleep with Eevee. Then Ash and Pikachu noticed everyone was asleep except the trio who were playing cards again in the kitchen. Even Lucario and Gardevoir were asleep on the couches. Ash and Pikachu made their way to their room where Ash got into bed, careful not to wake Eevee, who was leaning on Aipom. Then Pikachu jumped onto the bed behind them and lied down after putting his tail in front of Eevee. Night, buddy. Ash said to Pikachu as he fell asleep. Night, Ash. Pikachu said back as he yawned and closed his eyes too. Meanwhile, the trio was still playing cards. Jessie, I know you have the old maid. James told her. Oh boy, not this again. Why do we even bother playing cards anymore? Asked Meowth. How do you know that? Wasn't it your idea to play this stupid game? I wanted to play Go Fish. Jessie asked James. Oh yay. Why, so you could cheat again? James asked sarcastically. You always see things in black and white, James. Look in the middle for once. Why don't we play the game I want to play? Jessie asked. Jess. Looks like you see black and white too. That's ain't a middle ground, that's you getting your way. Meowth pointed out. Jessie was about to respond when they heard footsteps and voices come from outside. As the trio and Wobbuffet looked out the window, they saw none other than Zero. Wobba. They whispered to each other. Ain't dat da guy who runs Team Omni? Meowth asked. Yes, now be quiet so we can hear. Jessie told him. And you're sure they'll help? Zero said to someone. 100%. They'll be happy to take him down after he humiliated them. The other guy said. Okay, we'll try, but they can't know we're Team Omni, they'd arrest us in a heartbeat. The other man then nodded and they walked away in different directions, leaving a very confused trio behind. Who do you think they're trying to take out? Asked Meowth. Don't know, but he said. They'll be happy to help. Who will? James said. And who was humiliated? Jessie continued. They hummed as they went back to the table to ponder over their unanswered questions. Whether we have all the answers or not, we have to tell the boss first thing tomorrow. Jessie said. Agreed. Wob. Hey wait, who do you think Zero was talking to? I couldn't see him. James asked. Me neither. Wob. As they sat there a few minutes still trying to put together the conversation, sleep got the better of them. So after an hour of thinking, that's a lot for these three, they went to sleep wondering if Ash would know what was going on. Hey guys. Jessie said. Yay Jess. They said together. I have a confession. She said as James, Meowth and Wobbuffet nodded showing they were listening. I had the old maid the whole time. Jessie said with a laugh. After James, Meowth and Wobbuffet picked themselves up after falling anime style, the rockets finally drifted off into a well-deserved sleep. Sort of. Raise your hand if you knew Jess had the old maid. WHO is the guy Zero was within WHO are they talking about? Just a PS. If you're wondering about Arceus, favors a few chapters ago, which was for two things. 1. Being I wanted half the chapter to be in Arceus realm, because well I can. 2. I wanted to show that despite the power Arceus holds he was still a little afraid of what Team Omni could do. And next chapter will have Ash and Cynthia's second date, Ash and Misty's battle, and Ash's group's first fight with Omni members. Recap: Ash's group consists of Ash, Pikachu, Aipom, the trio, Wobbuffet, Paul, Sarah, Domino, Cynthia and Joey.